Hi folks, Dave with dbstechtalk, and today we're going to talk about the KZ ZSX. I want to thank inToit Reviews for sending these over for review. Do greatly appreciate it. inToit Reviews, you rock. Check out the links down below for a link to his channel. Give him a subscription if you haven't already, and then send him a message and tell him I sent you over there. And thank you for sending in the KZ ZSX for review. This video is off to a good start. KZ ZSX, there we go. Okay, I'll get it right. That's a lot of letters. Anyways, all right. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. So the KZ ZSX come in this very standard box. You open it up. Here's your IEMs, a little bit of branding. You get a little nice message on here that says, "Don't forget the original intention for using earphones is to enjoy music. Don't forget the original intention of using earphones is to enjoy music." Sorry, it's really hard to read. You have to get the right angle. Anyway, so you get a little message. And question is, do the ZSX, do I enjoy listening to music with them? All right, so take the little foam off. You get your standard KZ cable. Plenty of information out regarding that. It's not my favorite cable, but it's not the worst cable. Works really good for microphone if you do voice chat and things like that. You get a few tips and some paperwork. Nothing spectacular. They do have the Starline tip on her. I don't mind it. Very simple, very straightforward. Works extremely well. All right, so the IEMs themselves are a bit on the chunky side. They have this little metal faceplate with some interesting design on it. I do like that. I mean, it just looks different and sharp. It has quite the angle, but it has this interesting little ear hook thing, and that causes problems for me with comfort. I'm not a big fan of the comfort on here. Big, huge nozzle on this thing. Let me get this tip off here. And it's about, I think it's about a 6mm, so it's quite large, and it's just a little bit on the short side. If I can get it to focus. There we go. And so with that angle and just the overall just size of it and that weird ear hook that goes in your ear, to me it just hits in the wrong spot. That little ear hook pushes down on my ear, and then the angle and the nozzle bore size is just large. I can only wear these for about an hour. Yeah, about an hour. Not super comfy, not super uncomfy, but to me they're just okay. The cable, as I said, works great with microphone and tends to tangle up a little bit, but if you've had any other KZ IEMs, you'll know that that's kind of the standard for KZ cable. And I just tangled them up. Told you this video is yeah, we're gonna have fun on this one. All right, so overall, build wise, comfort wise, it's just adequate. I'm all right. So the enjoyment factor takes a hit when it comes to the comfort, but does it take a hit when it comes to the overall sound? As you notice, I have different tips on. That's twofold. Number one, comfort wise, I just couldn't get the right fit in my ear, and they just had too much pressure. I couldn't get the right size, and they were either too small, too big. That's usually the problem I have with KZ. And then the other thing is, I went with the RHA dual densities because I found that they helped out the upper mids, lower treble region, just a smidge. and I enjoyed the sound signature better with the dual density tip than the stock tip. Alright, sound. The adjective that comes to mind is intense. Intense in every area. Bass, mids, and treble. The only one that isn't intense is Soundstage. Alright. So the bass on the KZ ZSX. Hey, I said it right. The KZ ZSX. The bass goes deep. It has a nice rumble to it. This would make the bass heads feel adequately content. I wouldn't say that you were going to enjoy them quite as much as you would the TFC number 3, but the bass is very pleasant on these. It reaches down and it grabs you, gives you a nice grip to it, but it stays controlled. It doesn't ever like overwhelm the whole sound signature. It's very nicely detailed and has good clarity for the price point. And the mid bass and upper bass regions are just a little bit behind the sub bass region, so it gives it a nice texture. Very good control in that area also, and I find the bass to be very pleasing on the KZ ZSX. Mids, on the other hand, are not so pleasing for me. It's not like they're terrible, but they just have an unevenness to them. The lower mids tend to be a little bit thinner and lack a little bit of refinement, whereas the upper mids are a little more forward and a little bit more metallic sounding. Overall, they have decent tonality, but it sounds artificial. The BAs that are in this is a 1 dynamic 5 BA hybrid, and the BAs just present that little bit metallic timbre to it, and I find it to be just a little bit off-putting. It's not to the point where I don't want to listen to them, but it's to the point where it's not my favorite mid-range. The overall detail retrieval and clarity of the mids is nice. They have a slight little bit of warmth to them, but they're not super warm and dark sounding in the mids. They have, as I said, decent tonality, but it doesn't sound completely natural, and the timbre is just a little bit metallic. Upper mids and lower treble is definitely forward, and it brings the vocals forward and present, but you notice a difference between, especially if you have mixed groups, between male vocals of the deeper register versus a female or a higher registered male, like tenors and sopranos and altos and stuff like that in the female registers sound a little bit more forward than, let's say, a baritone or a bass or a lower registered female. Doesn't really affect instruments as much, but I notice it more on vocals, and they just seem to be a little unbalanced. Some of them can be a little bit more aggressive. So if you listen to mixed groups, sometimes it'll be a little off-putting as to which one is standing closer to the microphone. As far as the treble goes, the treble has good air and extends nicely. It does kind of roll off a little bit towards around 12 or 13K, somewhere in that range. It sounds like. Didn't really look at a graph, so I'm not 100% sure on that. But it does have a nice control in the treble. Resolves decently for the price point. It's not as good at resolving as a Tin Hi-Fi T3 or a FIO FH1S, but it is right up there, very close. It's a close second to those. And an Ibosso IT01 also would resolve a little bit better than the ZSX. But as far as the detail retrieval and the treble and the airiness and all that, it's all there. You're not going to miss anything. And it has a nice pleasantness, but it is a little bit on the forward side. But it never crosses over into sibilance range or harsh range. But it will reveal it if it's in a track. So if you have a bad recording, these can induce some ear shredding. The Soundstage on the ZSX is kind of in between average and intimate. I wouldn't really call it wide, and I also wouldn't call it super deep or layered. It's adequate in those ranges, but it's not extremely expansive soundstage, and you don't really get a 360 sound. It's more of like a flat board crust, but it does a really nice job of isolating and separating out instruments. You can hear each individual one, and it brings it forth and presents it in a nice way, even on busier tracks. Where it struggles is tracking. So if things travel across the stage or are moving, it'll kind of go right, left, right, left. You really can't place it and track it all the way across. It'll kind of skip a little bit. So I wouldn't use these for gaming. They're okay for watching videos and movies and things like that, but it's not, they're not the best in that regard. But they do a really nice job of separating out instruments, isolating voices, and instruments in the soundstage. So overall, I find the KZ ZSX to be very nice sounding, pleasant. The only really concern that I have is the intensity of them. They're very forward, very direct, and the higher the volume you go, the more it becomes, and they can really shred some ears quickly, and they can be fatiguing at that. So that's the reason why my listening time only tends to be about an hour with these, based off of comfort, and also just the sound signature is just so much in your face. How do they compare to other headphones or earphones? Really quickly, the T3 from Tin Hi-Fi does a better job of resolution and detail retrieval, but has a more analytical sound and will sound more lean. The CCA C12, which is the sibling of the KZ ZSX, is not quite as forward and intense, but also has a more leaner signature and a more analytical sound also, and does not have quite the sub-bass presence as the C12 does. The FIO FH1S is more laid back, but also does a better job of detail retrieval and resolution. The the Blonde BL05 has a more harshness to the sound. It's not as clean and not as resolving, but has a leaner sound in the bass. The mids are a little more aggressive in the upper mid, lower treble region. And then the Blonde BL03. The Blonde BL03 has better bass definition, in my opinion, as far as upper bass and mid bass, but doesn't do the sub bass quite as well. But it sounds more full and a little more pleasing in my my book. And then the mids are more controlled and balanced across the board on the BL03. Treble is better on the ZSX. Soundstage is bigger on the Blonde BL03. The KZ ZSX. Do I recommend them? Yes, if you like a more intense sound, if you like things being forward and in your head a little bit more, they're a very good pick. If you don't like a more aggressive sound signature, then the KZ ZSX might be something you want to pass on. This has been Dave with DBS Tech Talk. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on the screen is going to be a subscription link and a notification bell. If you haven't already, please check those off. Check out the links down below for a link to inToit Reviews channel, and also for links to Patreon, PayPal, Discord, playlists, and all kinds of other good things. Thanks, and have yourself a great day.